What's up, pups? How you guys doing? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. I want to talk to you guys today about an experience that Ian and I went through. So, as most of you know at this point, I took a break from vlogging because my dog Millie, whom I cared for and had for 15 years, passed away in September. Ian and I at this point have been slowly visiting dogs at rescues and shelters and starting the process of trying to adopt a new animal into our lives. We made plans to go to an event called Doggy Fun Fest down here where it was going to be a massive adoption event, and we figured it would be good for us to get out of the house, go visit some puppies and some dogs that need some love, and so we did. We went to the event. We came across a specific rescue whose name will not be mentioned in this video, but we fell in love with one of the dogs that they had there. His name was Pete. I Instagrammed a photo of him. He was super adorable and less than a year old, and he had been found on the side of the road with his brother wandering the highway. So this rescue took him in and got him up to, you know, par with his food and his health, and he was available for adoption. So I kind of immediately took to him. I don't know if it was because his demeanor was very similar to Millie in the sense that he was not a barker, very calm, laid back, didn't seem very like outgoing for a puppy, but I kind of like that. Like, I like when dogs just want to be loved. His brother was very boisterous and like barky and loud and blah blah blah, and he was kind of just like, yeah, I'm here for the ride. And so we were very interested in him, and we decided to fill out an application. So Ian had to go to work. He got called into work, so I had to fill out the application by myself. And after I turned in the application to the woman, she got very crass and defensive. Whereas this woman had been like, do you want to play with Pete? Do you want to get in the cage with him? Like, yeah, you should adopt him. You should put in an application. And I'm like, okay. So the second that we decided to do an application, it's like her personality did a 180. And suddenly she was this like mean person who was like on like the defensive and like asking me all these weird questions. Like, can I come into your house and do like a walkthrough to make sure it's dog friendly? What time do you work? And like, how often are you home? And like, what is your schedule like? And there were other weird questions about like Ian and our personal life, like how often we go on vacations, how often are we home, like, and I get like they're asking these questions because they want to make sure that you're not just going to adopt a dog and it's going to be by itself all day. Like, I totally get that, but the way that she was asking me the questions was so like in your face, and she didn't seem to like any answer that I was giving her. But the answers that I were giving her weren't far-fetched. Like, I work full-time, Ian works full-time. Our schedules are opposite. I work days and Ian works nights, so if we adopt a dog, it's probably going to be alone at most 3 to 4 hours a day, because Ian usually leaves for work around like noon or 1 and I get home at 5, so that's not a huge gap of time, and Millie did great with it. The questions were a little bit abrasive, and she was coming off as abrasive, and then she started asking questions about Millie, asking who her vet was, if she had her shots, how often we took her to the vet, like. And that was a little bit difficult because when I took Millie from my dad's house, she didn't go to the vet very often. Actually, I can't remember the last time she went to a vet. Like, when we took her to the emergency vet, that was pretty much like the last time she went. But she was in good health, and she was 15 years old. And when I took her to the emergency vet for her ear back in March, the vet said that she couldn't believe that Millie was like so ironclad, like she was in like excellent health. So I just felt like I was being attacked by this specific woman at the rescue, and after all was said and done and I turned in my application, she was like, we'll be in touch. And I immediately felt like, we're not getting this dog. Like, we're not getting this dog. She did not like me for some reason. We are not getting the dog. I don't know if it was my hair color or the fact that I look much younger than I actually am. I think what it was is that she was judging me not only on my appearance, but also on the fact that she probably thought I was very young, which I'm not. I'm 27. But it was just not a good experience for my first time ever going to a rescue. And everyone that I talked to after the fact told me I should have told her that I had never had a dog before, that like you can avoid that whole plethora of questions about like your dog's past medical history. So, learn for next time. But I knew we weren't getting the dog. A few days later, got the confirmation email. I asked her to call me. I told her that phone would be the best way to get in contact with me, but she emailed me and said, we've decided to go with a different home for Pete. And I wanted to know why. I wasn't going to be argumentative, but I wanted to know what her reasoning was. So I said to her, I'm like, oh, I'm very sad to hear this. Do you care to elaborate on why we were denied? And her response was, 5 people reviewed your application and we all decided that we don't think that Pete should live in an apartment. Okay. So, unfortunately, with the way things are, lots of young couples these days don't have homes, they have apartments. And I've heard from other people that, like, it's weird. You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't when adopting. Like, some rescues are against people who live in apartments. Some people are against people who have kids. Some people want pet parents that have kids. Like, it's weird. Like, it goes back and forth. So there's never, like, one set rule. So I responded to her and said, you know, I respectfully disagree with you, because I think Pete would have done great in an apartment, because Pete was the same breed as Millie, Rhodesian Ridgeback Lab. So I have a feeling that he would have probably been around the same weight, which Millie was 50 pounds. So if she did so well in an apartment, he would have done fine. But she wrote back to me and said, well, like I said, this was a group effort. Like, could have just not even said a word, but whatever. So anyway, this whole thing has made me kind of rethink the way that rescues work, because I started Googling our experience. Like, I was curious if other people had gone through similar experiences with rescues, and apparently this is like a norm. Like, rescues are very, very, like, defensive, and it's weird because you would think they want the dogs to go to homes, like good homes, but they get so defensive. Like, they don't want you to adopt the dog. While rescues seem like they are super deeply invested in finding the dog like the best possible home, like the most perfect home, I think they are risking denying potential amazing homes to pets based off of their super strict policies and requirements. The problem that I see with this is that many people, like Ian and myself, granted this was our first experience, but like I can understand now why some people who are trying to do the right thing and rescue or adopt a pet are turned away so many times by rescues that eventually they turn to a breeder or a pet store, and ultimately are funding puppy mills. And they're not doing so because they're like, well, screw it, I'm gonna support puppy mills. They're doing it out of desperation because they feel like these rescues are just doing everything in their power to not let them adopt a pet. Whereas you can walk inside of a puppy store, say, I like that puppy, pay money, and take the dog home. I just feel like it should be super easy to adopt a pet, and it's not. This whole process seems super counterproductive to finding good homes for adoptable pets. Here Ian and I are attempting to rescue a pooch, and we were denied based off of some ridiculous qualifications that this specific rescue deemed we would not be good pet parents because we live in an apartment. What? Come on. I did some research on the subject, and it's been estimated that around 6 to 8 million dogs a year are put into shelters and rescues. As a result, euthanization is the #1 leading cause of death for healthy dogs. But obviously, from my experience and the experience of others, shelters are way too picky for potential adopters. They make it exceedingly too difficult for perfectly suitable families to adopt a dog and make sure that it's living out its life outside of a kennel, or making sure that it's not getting euthanized because it can't find a home. You want a dog and you don't have a fenced-in yard? Nope, not for you. What, you're gonna be at work all day? No, absolutely not. This won't work. That pet needs human interaction. Having specific requirements for the adopter is one thing, but because they may not be your perfect match doesn't mean that you're not suitable for that cat or dog. And there are plenty of people out there like Ian and I who are willing to adopt. I personally believe that when people decide to adopt from a shelter or rescue, these people should be rewarded and treated with gratitude, not suspicion. Most important though is that these dogs deserve the second chance that these well-intentioned people are willing to give. Don't carelessly prevent them from doing so. And there are well over 10,000 rescues and shelters in the United States alone, and it is hard to make a generalization about all of them saying that they're all like this, because that is obviously not true. But I've read a lot of articles on the subject lately, even some articles written by people who work at rescues, who say that even they could not pass the rescue's adoption standards. And I understand that some of these standards are in place for a reason. You don't want a couch potato adopting a high-energy dog who's gonna turn around and return it because they can't handle it. Obviously, people have to have jobs to function and live in a home and buy food. This is just a thing. People have to have jobs. Yet some rescues and shelters make it seem like they don't want anyone who works from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. or, you know, not obviously that long of a time period, but any time between that period. They don't want people who are gone from the house that long. That makes no sense. I understand that when you're adopting a puppy, you do need to have some sort of like a schedule where you're gonna be home more often than not, so you can help train the puppy and nurture it and make sure that it's going to be a viable option for it to be alone in the future. But I think what needs to happen is that rescues especially need to understand that they're people just like us, and everyone has jobs, everyone has things in their life that happen. You have to have a job to pay for the puppy. If If you don't have a job in your home all the time, how are you going to support the puppy and make sure that it needs to get the medical attention it needs, the food it needs, the toys it needs, the bed it needs? Like, you have to have money to take care of a dog. So if you don't have a job, how... I think what it is ultimately is that I wish rescues would be a little bit more understanding that we are all human beings. I just think it would be more beneficial if rescues would take a step back, look at their procedures and their requirements, and realize that are like way too unattainable for the normal person. And by telling someone like me or someone like Ian that we can't adopt a dog because we aren't qualified, it's super screwed up. And it's very offensive too, because Millie was so happy with us and we were so happy with Millie, and the only reason that we are looking right now to adopt is because we want that love again. Like, we want to feel the responsibility of taking care of another living creature. Like, not a baby, please. Like, I don't want to see any comments like, get pregnant, no thanks. I'm not ready for that. But I am ready for a dog, and I want to experience that again. I want to have a dog. I want it. I'm a dog person. I need it. And I am not inexperienced with dog care, and I will love that dog to the ends of the earth. So I don't know, it's just really offensive. And I wish that rescues would just kind of understand that they're not gonna give these dogs homes with their insane requirements. So anyway, this was just our first experience. It was a very difficult first experience, and it's definitely opened up my eyes into understanding how difficult of a process this is going to be for us to adopt from a rescue if we go that route. We have been looking at shelters as well, and I know it's a little bit easier to adopt from shelters, but we're not giving up, so hopefully we will find our perfect pooch very soon. So anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on rescues? Do you know anyone that works at one? Do you work at one? Have you ever adopted from a rescue? Was the process just as difficult as this? Leave a comment down below and let me know. If this is the first video that you're seeing of mine, hi, I'm Kayleigh. You should subscribe by hitting that red button right down below, and we can become best friends forever. Links to my Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and Instagram are also down below. I'll see you guys in a few days with another video. Peace out, Trouts.